All right, I'm in New York today, New York City, in Soho to be more specific. May 25th, 1979, 6-year-old Etan Patz left his parents' house to walk to the bus stop, and he never made it. It was only 2 blocks away from his house, and he disappeared forever. There was a conviction, but there's never been a body. This all happened on Prince Street, which is what I'm coming up to now. So I'm going to show you where they lived. I'm going to show you where the bodega used to be and show you really how close it was. It was very close. I think it was even less than 2 blocks away from the store that it's believed where he was killed. Let me see where they lived here. Coming up, oh, okay, here. Their house was over here. So I think that their apartment was this one. The fire escape railing was either this one or that one. I'm not totally sure yet. It's a little confusing. I was trying to use the photos. You can see some of this detail. I'll take you on the other side. You can see some of the detail. So I believe that the Patz apartment was right there. You can see there's a couple pictures of them standing on here, and you can line up and see some of that building. You can see the detail, and in one of them you can see just to the left of this brick building, you can see that detailed white building with the columns. Actually looks very similar to this one. So this is most likely the door that she would have walked him out of. I mean, it's very different now, obviously. This is 45 years ago or whatever it is. But that's the door, and then he would have walked straight down this way. So he would have walked right down here, and she watched him cross this street here, Worcester, staying on Prince. And that's when she went inside. She went back inside. She had things to do, obviously. What most people believe, and what actually likely happened, was that he walked all the way down here, staying on Prince, walked to this intersection down here. And back in 1979, there was a bodega, a deli on the corner. And his mother had given him some money to buy a soda for lunch at school. Now, it's no longer a bodega. It's now some sort of a sock store or something like that. But it is believed widely that he was lured down into the basement of that bodega that early morning, right through here. So look at this comparison. I believe this photo was taken right around the time when he went missing, 45, 46 years ago. So the bus came and went, and Etan was nowhere to be seen. His teacher did notice him missing from class, but never reported it. In fact, it wasn't until much later in the day, many hours, until his mother and father realized that he was actually missing. Around 3 p.m. or so, the police were called, and a massive search ensued. And by the way, this is the very first time Etan's mother, Julie, let him walk on his own to the bus stop. How unfortunate. So over 100 officers searched the area, knocking on doors, searching back alleys, rooftops, waterways, really all throughout the entire area here. Soho in 1979 wasn't exactly the best area to be a child alone in. And even way before the milk cartons and all that stuff, thousands of posters were posted all over poles and store windows, and trees, buildings everywhere, to no avail. The search was largely called off on June 6th. Etan Patz had just vanished. And of course, you have to talk about the milk carton situation there, with the kids being put on the milk cartons. That started, I believe that happened out of Des Moines, Iowa, 1984 or so. I don't know if Etan was the first. I think there's some discrepancy with that. He's probably arguably the most famous of them all, but it's my opinion it was probably Johnny Gosch. And my buddy Lamont at Large will be doing a video about him out in the Iowa, Des Moines area. So if he hasn't put it out already, look for that because it will be coming out soon. The first one also could have been Eugene Martin, 13 years old, who disappeared actually not far from Johnny Gosch. Also, I believe they were both paper boys. So clearly something was going on. But I think most people just remember, at least in the East Coast area, they certainly remember Etan Patz being on that milk carton. That was started by the National Child Safety Council in 1984. Hundreds of dairy companies across the U.S. began printing the same photos and information of missing children on their milk cartons, sometimes 2 at a time. And you know, this was the beginning of that whole stranger danger situation. The don't talk to strangers. Probably some of you that are a little bit older will remember your parents saying, you don't want to be like those kids. You don't want to end up on the milk carton like those kids. That all came from that. Etan was really one of the first of that. Then came Adam Walsh, of course, Johnny Gosch. Now, the milk campaign was mildly successful. I would say it lasted until sometime in the 90s when the Amber Alert stuff came out and people started buying more plastic jugs rather than the cardboard or the paper, whatever you want to call it, those cartons. Probably the most successful results that came out of the milk carton campaign was Bonnie Loman. She was 3 years old when she was kidnapped by her biological mother and disappeared for years. And I believe it was 5 years later or something like that, she would happen to be at a store and she saw her picture on a milk carton. And she said, but that's me. And that's ultimately, there's more to the story, but ultimately that's how she was found and brought back to her biological father. An interesting fact, in 2012, they actually revisited this building here, which is on the corner of Wooster and Prince, and it's now being redone. But this was a handyman's shop, and they, I don't know if, at some point they had noticed during the investigations that the cement was different grades or was wavy or was discolored. So they came in here in 2012 showing you that the investigation was still very much ongoing. You can see the pictures of the tarp and the trucks out here, and I guess they dug up the cement, the concrete, probably in the basement, looking to see if there was anything down there. And I'm not even going to mention his name because he was never charged. There was never any issue. They never found anything. I don't know why the floor wasn't dug up back then in 1979 or certainly earlier than 2012, but while revisiting pictures and information, they came across the foundation in there, or the pictures of the basement, and I guess the handyman at the time said that they had done some repairs under the floor and it had to be replaced. So, you know, obviously trying to follow every lead, that's what they did. Ultimately, there were 2 suspects and really people that were, I don't know if Jose Ramos was tried, but he was certainly a suspect. I believe he was it's known that he was a pedophile. He somewhat admitted to it, but he wasn't sure if it was actually Etan that he had kidnapped and molested. So for a long time, people believed it was him, Jose Ramos. And then years later was when Pedro Hernandez came about, who actually worked at that bodega at the time. And I believe over the years he confessed or told a few people about it, at least 3 close friends, and I believe a church group. He kind of admitted to strangling a kid way back in the day. And that's how he was brought in and then was questioned for a long time. Now there is some issue with that people like his lawyer argue that he was mentally unstable, and that he actually, one of the employees said it would have been difficult for him to do it because it was in the breakfast rush hour time, and he would have had to open that basement door up because you can only access it from outside. So there's some weird discrepancies as far as if it was even possible that he could have done something like that. But he admitted to it, and it went to court. The original hearing was September 2014. By May of 2015, there was a hung jury. Then October 19th of 2016, there was a retrial. February 2017, he was found guilty of murder. And then April 28th, 2017, he was sentenced to 25 years to life. I think he has to serve 25 years before he is eligible for parole. And I believe that's where things stand now. Jose Ramos, that whole conviction was dismissed, overturned. And I believe that Etan's parents were happy with that. I think they were confident. They had changed their opinion, originally thinking that it was Jose Ramos, and then after hearing him admitting everything, then they changed and really believed that it was Hernandez. Hernandez said that he threw his body out and it went into the garbage, and it had been it was 7 hours or something from the time that he likely killed him to when they figured out that he was actually missing. It was 3 o'clock or something, so it had been quite a while. It had been 7 or 8 hours, plenty of time for the garbage to go out and be halfway into Ohio by that time, or maybe they were still dumping it in the ocean, who knows. And there you go. That's the story of Etan Patz, his disappearance, the conviction. A lot of people don't feel like it's 100% because there's no body, there's no motive, there's no evidence really, just that confession from a questionable man. Unfortunate situation, but that is the story of Etan Patz. Hope you enjoyed the sights and the sounds of the city. Unfortunately, it's a sad story, but at least there was some sort of closure. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.